Hello, my name is Dr. Ruthie. I'm a professional sexuality educator and a relationship coach over at exploringintimacy.com. But thanks to the good folks at Funwares, I'm here answering your questions about sex and relationships. Sent over to AskDrRuthie, AskDrRuthie at funwares.com. So send over your questions and I may answer them here. This week's I have a great question here that I think is really true for a lot of men and a lot of women, regardless of who you're attracted to or what kind of sexual relationships you find yourself in. Dr. Ruthie, I get distracted during sex, even though my boyfriend is very good at what he does. It makes me feel like a bad girlfriend to him. What can I do? I'm so glad that you asked this question because, like I said, a lot of women are really going to be able to identify with this, and a lot of guys too. This isn't limited to really any particular type of sexual relationship. In fact, sex researchers over time have seen a lot of this happening. They've seen more of it happen with women than with men, but it can definitely happen both ways. And one of the fancy names that they've given for one of the types of distractions that's really common is spectatoring. You might have also heard about performance anxiety, and the two of them, have some things in common. So let's talk about what they are, and maybe you'll identify with some of this, or it'll give you some ideas about your distraction level. Folks who spectator, one way to describe it is that when they're engaged in sex, they're not really thinking about the feelings of the sex. They're not really enjoying it. They're wondering about their body and if their body is attractive or making a weird noise or what their partner wants it to be, whether their partner's fantasizing about them or someone else because they're not good enough. Wondering if they make weird facial expressions, and they're just very concerned about themselves and their presentation during sex. So this is kind of almost like they're watching and criticizing themselves during sex. And this is really common, especially with women, because we get kind of trained to watch and criticize ourselves with everything, including sex, especially if our clothes are off. So this can be one sort of thing that happens, and it can be very useful to recognize that that's what's going on. I'm going to give you some tips for what to do about it in a second. I also mentioned performance anxiety being a little bit related to spectating. Performance anxiety can happen when we are just really worried about being a good lover, and that can mean pleasing our partner, or it can also mean making it clear that we are pleased. And sometimes we want so much to please our partner that we don't really do the things that would turn us on and please us either. Or we're so worried about being a good partner by being pleasured that we may act pleasured or fake it when we're really not. So performance anxiety can take both those sides, both those forms. There's other reasons that we may be distracted during sex, and it could be a combination of reasons. It could be that he's very good at what he does, but what he does isn't exactly what works for you. You may not even know for sure what works for you, and you're still discovering and exploring your own sexuality. Nothing wrong with that either. But it means that perhaps his role as your lover can be a little bit different and more towards the teamwork side, which we'll also talk about in a second. It could be that you've had some negative intimate experiences before, whether it was sexual violence or just soaking in the negative sexual and body and gender languages of our culture, or anything else that could relate to a bad body or sex or intimacy experience. And when we've had those, even if we're not having flashbacks, even if it wasn't terribly violent, or if we are having flashbacks and it was violent, either way, our body can kind of clam up and take our mind somewhere else at that point in time because we have things to process and deal with that are unpleasant. And the anxiety, the spectatoring, the performance anxiety, those could also be ways of distracting yourself from processing unpleasant things, like coming to terms with being happy about your body, or being confident in your sexuality, or any of a million other possibilities. And it could also be that you are a stressed out, normal, perfectly happy, healthy adult who has too much on your mind. I will oftentimes meet parents who have trouble transitioning from the mommy identity to the lover identity, from being in charge of household and domestic things to not worrying about them right now, to being in charge of being the safety net for all sorts of stuff, to putting that away and taking time away, time off. from that for sex. And so all of those things can cause distraction too. If you find yourself thinking about things that you should be doing instead, typical too high stress type stuff, those can all be things that you can work on to improve. What are some ways to get started? In addition to seeking out somebody who can help you process the stuff, whether it's your sweetie or your religious leader or a good therapist or educator or coach, or just getting regular massages, taking up drum classes, whatever helps you process whatever it may be. You can also do some stuff right away. First of all, I really encourage you to talk to your partner about being your teammate and tackling this issue together. It doesn't reflect poorly on his skills. You already know they're good. He hopefully already knows they're good. But it does reflect on just the goodness of fit sexually. You can both be amazing lovers, but part of the joy of every new partner we have is discovering the ways we fit best together. It does not reflect on our quality of skills or our love or our care for each other or any of that. It just means that every person is different, so we have to find out how we fit best together and make that happen. So hopefully he can take that approach with you, and you can look at adjusting some things to see how it works. You may need to take a more or a less active role to really hold your attention there. If you generally have focus and attention issues, think of what works for you. A little bit of Adderall, a little bit of breathing exercises, whatever it is that you do to tackle those things. You might consider using whatever those techniques are in the bedroom area as well. So being more or less active. Are there certain activities in the bedroom that distract you more than others? Get those activities out of there and enjoy other stuff. Or perhaps it's the context that causes distraction, maybe combined with certain activities. Can we change the context? Can we make sure the temperature is what you need? Somebody really likes the ceiling fan on really high for sleep, but it's cold for you. Turn it off and then turn it on again before bed. Sometimes something attention grabbing like painting your nails a bright color can help bring you back as you see your hands in the activity. Getting the music the way you like it, or getting the music out of there. All sorts of different things like that, that if they're leading you to distraction, the two of you can be a team in the fun of experimenting towards better sex. Who doesn't want to be that kind of home researcher, right? Maybe a little more dirty talk and communication to help bring your focus in, but to also help you be good teammates in this effort so that you can communicate what you need to be attentive. And by having the language going, it can increase your ability to hold your attention on it and not be as distracted as well. Also offering reassurance or anything else that you might want then, or that he might want then. On the solo side of things, or perhaps your partner can help you with this, is breathing and feeling. It sounds simple, and once you get used to doing it, it becomes simple, which is taking note and mindfully saying, I am distracted now. No judgment about that. I'm going to breathe deeply and let my mind refocus on the parts of my body that could be feeling pleasure if I were paying attention to them right now. Or if I communicated a little bit more right now, they could be feeling more pleasure, and I want to make sure I absorb that pleasure. So taking deep breaths and just letting your mind go to that place where the pleasure is, and really encouraging your mind to just experience all the aspect of the senses of your body that are taking in the pleasure. The difference in the textures, the difference in the pressure, all sorts of different things like that. And really letting your mind play with and focus on those things can be wonderful. And remember to keep the good breath going too. Even just hearing your own aroused breathing could help to turn you on and stay focused. I hope that these things will help you in your quest to be less distracted during sex and become a better sexual team together. My name is Dr. Ruthie. Remember to drop me an email or come visit me at exploringintimacy.com, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks.